Hi, I'm Joe Laker and this is the Great British Chef Signature Series. So having a counter restaurant is great in that aspect of being able to interact with all the guests. It breaks down those barriers between us and them, and I feel like sometimes people don't fully understand like the work that we put in and the work that goes into things, so it's great for people to be able to see that. So I got the opportunity at the Black Swan to go for a trial shift while I was still at university studying engineering. At that point I realised that that's what I wanted to do. The pace of a kitchen and like the intensity and everything really appealed to me. My name's Joe, I'm head chef and owner of Can 71 in Hackney, and today the dish we'll be cooking is a cheese tartlet with Tunworth cheese custard, some dehydrated beetroots, some pickled beetroots, and then some oxalis leaves on top. This dish has been on since we opened. It also had an iteration at the pop-up we did before we opened the restaurant. It's one that's received well, and it's definitely one of my favourite of the snacks. So the first process, because it takes a little while, we're going to make a cheese custard with the Tunworth cheese. So we're making it in a Thermomix, but it is possible at home just to blend it in a standard blender and then sort of cook it out over a bain-marie. So it's a really simple recipe. We've just got some Tunworth cheese, we've then got some whole eggs and some double cream. I feel like for a custard, I mean, it almost has a custardy texture already. It's very soft, comes in super ripe as well, just gives that really nice strong cheese taste. It's kind of like when we're giving these snacks one-biters, it's really important that like they're full of flavour and they have as sort of much of that cheese taste as possible. So we're just adding a little bit of salt just to bring out the flavours of the cheese. So if you have a Thermomix, and we have it in a Thermomix, we put it on for around 6.5 minutes at 80 degrees, and then we'll just get that going. So whilst we've got the custard going in the Thermomix, then we'll get the beetroots ready. This is sort of at the end of the process. So first of all, we roast the beetroots whole, wrapped in foil with some salt and oil. We then take them and we put them in a dehydrator overnight. They can also be done in an oven. It sort of gets to like a nice gummy texture. And then we dice them up and then mix them with a glaze. Also, we have some golden beetroots, which come from our supplier at Shrub. So we're just going to slice those and just give them a quick pickle. So you need very few for this recipe. We're going to make them as small as possible, so it's nice and palatable. Now our custard's ready, so it's set up and it's quite firm. What will happen is as it cools down, it has a tendency to split, but what we do is we cool it down nicely in a bowl, and then we put it back in the blender just to blend it nice and smooth. So after you've diced the beetroot, the next thing is to get the pastry working. So in here we just have some unsalted butter and some plain flour. We're just going to add some cheese. Then we're going to mix that until it's breadcrumbs. So we use Montgomery cheddar. So then we wait for the flour mixture to form breadcrumbs. And then after that we'll add some salt and some whole egg and just let the mixture come together. So now we're going to add the egg and a pinch of salt. And then if the mixture doesn't come together after about 30 seconds, then adding a splash of cold water is absolutely fine. So now our pastry's done, so we'll just take it out of the mixer. We'll just give it a light knead on the surface, just to bring it together. Then once it's together, we can then place it on a tray and then fridge it, just to rest it for a couple of hours. So now that the pastry's rested, we'll get it out onto a lightly floured surface, and then roll it to a nice thickness so that we can then put it in our tart cases. So if it starts to get a bit sticky, you can start dusting it with a little bit more flour. So just rolling it out nice and thin. Almost as thin as it will go without it sort of breaking and tearing. And then if the dough gets difficult to work with when we're trying to get it into our tart rings, it's always possible just to fridge it slightly, just so it makes it a bit easier to work. So now that's rolled out nice and thin. We'll take our tart rings, so we just use small fluted tart rings for our snacks because it's a one-biter at the start. Then cut the right size, then we just put it over the top. I find the easiest thing to do is just get a bit of scrap pastry, and then after you've sort of worked it carefully into the rings with your hands, you can sort of get inside the nice flutes with a bit of pastry, and then just sort of avoids tearing it with your fingers. So now that we've got it in the tart ring, what you can do is just fridge it just to rest it slightly. And then what we'll do, we'll put another tart ring on top to stop it from proving out. What you can do, as it's baking, to blind bake it, is just to put some baking beans in there or rice on top of some greaseproof paper. So now our pastry's cooked. We also have our cheese custard, which is set and then been reblended. We have our diced beetroots, both golden and dehydrated, and then the oxalis leaves, which we're just going to garnish on top. So we have our pastry case. We'll then add the cheese custard. So we want this to be a nice strong taste, so we put plenty of cheese custard in the middle. Nice amount of the dehydrated beetroots. We then want the pickled beetroots just to add some nice acidity to the dish. Then we garnish it with some oxalis leaves, which just add another level of acidity. So this is my cheese tartlet with a Tunworth cheese custard, dehydrated beetroots, pickled beetroots and oxalis leaves.